Welcome all. My name is Bruno Marin. I'm a student at the degree of audiovisual communication in the Camilo José Cela University. And today we're here with a new episode of the podcast Global Education Forum, Education Shaping the Future, Keeping Us Human. By my side is Charles Fadel, an education thought leader, futurist and innovator, recognized for his work in curriculum redesign and his expertise in the intersection of education and technology, particularly artificial intelligence. Welcome, Mr. Fadel.
Thank you, my pleasure.
As you know, today we're here to talk about AI and its impact in education. And with the rapid advancement of AI, what role do you see educators playing in preparing students for a future where AI technologies are ubiquitous?
Thank you. There are really two types of roles. One which is related to how do we use AI to teach better, and the what question about what should we be teaching for the age of AI to begin with. So we'll start with the how, and then during this conversation, we'll transition towards the what.
Yeah, I think it's really fun way and nice way to do this podcast. You were telling me before you wanted to focus a lot on that because it's kind of the most interesting and powerful part of AI. Could you discuss some specific samples of how AI is currently being integrated into educational settings to enhance teaching and learning experiences?
Certainly. Well, first, there's a very, very short-term phase that we're living through where teachers are discovering chatbots, like ChatGPT, Claude, etc., etc. And so the teachers or professors are wondering, okay, how do I use this? What kind of affordance do I give the students? Do I let them use it 100%? Do I put some boundaries? There are myriads of experiments going on around the world about that. And I think we're going to converge towards something that's rationally like this. You want the student to be able to function solo the same way that, for example, we learn multiplication tables. We don't rely on our calculators all the time. But once you do that, you also want to be able to use the technology. And so one of the things that's very debated nowadays is how to write an essay. Of course, if you leave it only to the AI, you will never learn how to write an essay. But the first question we need to ask ourselves, and this is the what, should we be writing essays at all, or should we be putting so much focus on essays since we are communicating in all sorts of ways now, not just with essays? So the what aspect should be, okay, well, we're going to communicate with essays, with short text, with SMS, with this, with that. Okay. Number one. Number two, if we decide to work with essays, it is important to scaffold the students, to give them an architecture so they know how to do it. And in that case, it's perfectly okay to say, no technology, give me your smartphone. We want you to learn the basic, and then we want you to improve. So first we teach you how to do an essay, and now, here's the AI, write me a better essay. And I'm going to judge you not because of what the AI has written with you. I want to judge you on the prompts you will have written to come up with a better essay. I want to judge you on your assessments of the AI results. So basically, I'm judging you on a meta level of understanding of what an essay is, which is much tougher. So you can see how you can teach the basic scaffolding and teach a lot better with AI thanks to AI. But you notice that we're not relying on AI to just give the lazy solution. We're forcing us to learn a lot more, a lot better. And if there's one real concern I have that no one is really paying attention to, is how lazy our brains naturally are. Our brains are lazy by good evolutionary design. Our brains consume 20% of the energy of the body for 5% of the body mass. So evolution has tweaked us to choose the simplest path, the easiest path every time we can, For example, we judge people within 2 minutes, or we judge people on how they look. Our brains are lazy. And my concern really is that we're going to take the lazy route and overly rely on AI, whereas we should be really moderate and balanced and make AI, force AI to make us think and learn a lot better, a lot deeper.
That's really true. We almost always want to find the easiest way, the fastest way to do something. And it was really interesting what you said about the essay. If the question that we need to ask ourselves, that if we need to write essays, for me it's a yes. Simply because if you know how to write an essay, you may know how to read it, and it's really interesting. It's really important. But also, there's a barrier for people that maybe don't know how to write them, but they know the information. So, for example, very technical information, scientists may know, and they don't know how to tell it to other people because that's something that happens. And artificial intelligence, it's a great tool for them to tell all this information, all this knowledge they have to ordinary people.
Of course, and I fully understand that need. For example, because I've spent most of my career in technology companies, I'm used to using PowerPoint. So I'm used to bullet point formats, absolutely essential words. That's it. And so I go to my AI and say, these are the 5 points that I want to talk about. Write me a page about it. It does well, but I still have done the original thinking about what these points are. And that's the important part. And I'm capable of reading the essay from the AI and say, wait a second, I didn't mean this, and correct it. So yes, there's a value added aspect.
It's kind of like a colleague.
Exactly.
Artificial intelligence.
It should be a benevolent friend that helps you, but it's a friend that hallucinates. So you cannot always trust it, because the way language models work is, as you know, by statistical inference of what words follow each word in a given sentence. But sometimes it comes up with things that have nothing to do with what you asked for, but it looks very well done, very plausible, but it's just plain wrong. It will sometimes cite authors that don't exist, or worse, authors that exist but never wrote the paper that it cites. So it hallucinates, like you have a friend that's on drugs, and you have to make sure that, or has drunk too much, and you have to make sure that you verify.
Yeah, it's sometimes like that friend that always tells you, I've read this, I've listened to this, where mostly on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. So you read Kant on TikTok? Okay, how much am I going to believe that?
Yeah. It's true that sometimes it's in the information in TikTok, it's true, and it's good, it's research, but sometimes not.
And what's the probability of it being true if it's on TikTok, right? You have to verify also the type of media that's being used.
Yeah, so finally it's like artificial intelligence, it's like a colleague, but you're like a boss or like a leader to it to help it go and help it learn how to do things the way you like, the way they are intended to.
Yeah, it's your agency. You have to remain in control. You cannot just be lazy and be controlled by it. And as we said earlier, that's my concern about how we're going to be surrendering that agency because of natural laziness rather than, on the contrary, staying up with it.
And talking about the what that you told me, if you were now a student, for example, what would you like the teacher to be teaching you?
Yeah. So first of all, everybody should have AI literacy the same way we have digital literacy. Basically, it's learning how to drive the car. You don't need to understand the engine and the pistons. That's the literacy aspect. Not everyone needs to be a computer scientist. If you want to be a computer scientist, you're going to design the engine and the pistons, or the electric car, whatever. But if you're going to be everybody, Everybody else just needs to have enough literacy to understand how to use the car, how to use AI, what are the limitations of AI or the car. The car runs out of gas or runs out of battery charge. Well, what are the limitations of the language model that you're using? Are some language models better for history than for mathematics? The answer is already yes, etc., etc. So you have to be digitally literate, AI literate, to know how to use it properly. That's number one. That's for everybody. But more profoundly, more strategically, we have a world that is already very, very shaky. We have a world that is more uncertain than perhaps ever. And so the wise insurance policy would be that we modernize the content of what we teach. For instance, why do we teach so much trigonometry and we don't teach enough data science? Why don't we teach discrete and computational mathematics rather than so much algebra? Right? What is the better balance? And that's for the traditional disciplines. And then why do we not teach modern disciplines, even in schools, not just at university? Why don't we teach engineering in schools? Why don't we teach social sciences in schools? Sociology, psychology, etc. Why don't we teach entrepreneurship in schools? Now, of course, some private schools do that, but they don't do it enough. And certainly a lot of governments around the world do not mandate that the same way they mandate mathematics and physics and chemistry and so on. So why only the theoretical disciplines and not the practical side of these disciplines? Why physics, not engineering? Right? Why literature, not social sciences? You see. And so that's already one major aspect of what needs to be covered. The second major aspect is how to think and be better from a skills and character and meta-learning perspective. Because if you look at what AI can or cannot do, can it be creative? Yes, no, depending on the situations. You realize that we have to push ourselves further. We have to be more imaginative because AI can create by mimicry, by analogy, by extrapolation. And so it forces us to pay attention to these other competencies much more carefully and truly teach for them, not just put them on a PDF and say, okay, you're done. So modernize the content and embed the competency. So as you're learning fractions, we teach you critical thinking. As you're learning, history, we teach you curiosity. It has to be embedded within each other.
It's true that nowadays, for example, in Spain, that's the model I know, you start learning how to think in university rather than in school or in high school. And it's a really important thing. I remember I had a subject last year, which was critical thinking. And from there, I started seeing the world in a complete different way.
Exactly. So rather than making it a separate course and have it at the college level, at the university level, it should really be embedded throughout your entire education to forge the way you think. When you look at information, you understand that it's not something you have to believe instantly, even if it comes from your mother. So that's the sort of filter, the sort of detachment that you have to put between yourself and a situation. Examine it.
Yeah, I think that there could be a kind of little revolution of kids, of young people, because when you're growing, when you're studying in school, in high school, you don't really stop and think about things that happen, for example, a political space, but it shouldn't. When you start thinking, you start noticing some things, and it's really important, at least for students, to be critical in the way they study and the things that they want to do, and it's a really great thing to be made, I think.
Exactly. And so the problem of all systems is the bachillerato, the baccalaureate, the abitur, all of these end of study systems that only measure the old things, the traditional things. And until they start measuring those modern things, the system is blocked. Okay, because parents want to make sure their kids graduate, schools want to make sure the kids graduate. What is the metric? The traditional exam. If the exams don't change, we're not going to change behavior. So we have to move that. That's the roadblocks. That's the Gordian knot in the middle of everything.
And how would you implement AI in all of this process of changing?
It doesn't have to be AI-centric. It really does not. These are human issues that are actually blocking progress. AI can be a tool here or there to gather data, to analyze data or whatever, but that's secondary, really. The important part is the human dynamics of inspectors at the end of people who are in charge of the end of studies. They are the ones who hold an enormous amount of power, and they're not exercising it the right way. Because they're afraid of change, nothing is changing. And it's more dangerous to stay where we are than to change. We know what needs to be done. Systems are afraid.
I think that's a wonderful way to end up with this podcast. It's really precise message, and thank you for being here, talking to us, giving us your opinion in artificial intelligence and education. Thanks you a lot, and hope to see you soon.
It's my pleasure, and you're the generation who's going to have to live with infinitely more powerful AI in the future. So I wish you well.
Thanks.